So, professors, the point I was making is that after doing the debits and credits, right, as in recording in the T account, as we saw the last time, where we open plenty T accounts like that. Okay. When you are done, you need to do what we call summarize, right? You need to summarize the account. The only way you can summarize is to balance the account off. That's the essence for this balancing of account. Now, what does it mean? If you are balancing off an account, it means that you are determining the balance on the account to be able to extract a trial balance. Now we'll get to know what a trial balance is, but now let's look at how you balance off it. Now, if you are balancing off an account, as we have seen, your essence is you want to know the balance of the account. So what is a balance? A balance is the difference between the debit side and what the credit side. Because you acknowledge that you put in figures in this account. So you want to know the difference between the values or the amount on the debit side and that of the credit side to see where the shortfall is, so that we can put this shortfall there to make the two sides agree or balance. So you can actually have two main balances, either a debit or a credit. You cannot have both debit or credit at the same time. Okay, it's either you're having a debit balance or a credit balance. But in weird situations, you can have an account that is having some debit and credit, but that is a different scenario, not when you are balancing it. If you are balancing off an account, it's either you get a debit balance or a credit balance. Now, what is a debit balance? The debit balance means that the debit side is bigger or greater than the credit side. That's the point I want to. And a credit balance is where the credit side is bigger or greater than the debit side. So we should be comfortable with that. Then I took you through the steps, or these are the steps to balance off. So the first thing is you need to get the total on both sides. Okay, get the totals on both sides. So step one, you determine the total of each of the two sides of the account. So you come to the debit side, you get a total, that's you punch your calculator, add the figures there, get a total, go to the credit side, you do it. That's the first step. The second step is determine the difference between the two sides. You have gotten the figures. So find the difference, that's subtract it to see the difference. So let me put in some figures here. Okay. So let's say that you do the totals on this account. Let me put car account. And you saw that the total on this car at the debit side is 20,000. And when you did the total on the credit side, you had 18,000. So that's the first step. You get the totals like this. So we have 18,000. What is the difference between this? The difference is what? 2,000. So this 2,000 difference, we say you put it at the smaller side. In this case, what is the smaller side? Of course, the side with the 18,000. So you come and put it there and you call it balance carried down, or BALC/D. We have the C/F, which is carried forward, but I'm saying that the carried down is the modern use. So let's use the carried down. But if you write the CF, so you put it there and call it balance carried down using the closing date. And I said closing date, as we know, most of the times are the 31st, the 30th, the 28th, or 29th. That's it. So those are the dates you use to label this balance. 31st, 30th, depend on the. Now, after that, you have to bring that carry down to the opposite side and call it balance brought down, or BD. You can again here use BF, but BF is outmoded. We prefer the BD brought down. That one too, you have to put a date there. And the date we put there is after the closing date. What is the next date? So it's normally first, because if the closing date is 30th, 31st, 28th, or 29th, the next date definitely will be first. So for example, if your carry down was 31st December, then it means the brought down will take 1st January. But from 31st December, the next date is 1st January. Then you put in the years accordingly, right? So these are the steps for balancing. Then let's look at an example. So that was where I took us to that. So let's look at this account that we have. I have already balanced, so you let me take it off. Let me take the balancing off so that you can have it. So ordinarily, this is how your account will look like if you are coming to balance it. So what is the first step? Get the totals on each side. So here we take our calculator point, 500 plus 1,000 plus 650 plus 120. And I think the figure would be 2,700. So you write it somewhere. Then you come to the credit side, 250 plus 300. That is 570. That's the first step, get the total. The second step is get the difference, which means subtract the smaller from the bigger, right, to get the difference. So what will be the difference? Those with calculator, I think that is 1,700. 1,700. So you see this difference, we are saying put it at the smaller side. And obviously this is the smaller side. So this is where the figure is smaller. So put it there, right? That's on the next. And call it balance carry down, or balance BALC/D. Using the closing date. What month are you seeing in this account? You are seeing January, 7 January, 13 January, 2nd January. So this month, January, will end on 31st of January, 2000. So after you have put in this carry down, we are saying you need to also show that now the account has balance. Put in the total 2720. So then that becomes the total on both sides. I'm saying this total should always be on the same. Then the last step is this carry down. Bring it to the opposite side. So this carry down is on this right side, credit side. We'll bring it to the opposite side, but under the total. So you see, under the total, I'll bring the 1,700. This time, I'll call it balance BD, balance brought down. I'll use the date that comes after this closing. I think we might give that answer 1st of February 2000. But from 31st January, we move to the 1st. That's how we balance. And then I was asking that we have balanced this bank account. And anytime you balance an account, you either get a debit balance or a credit balance, as we saw earlier. A debit balance is where, let me go. A debit balance is where the debit side is greater than the credit side. And a credit balance is where the credit side is greater or more than the debit side. So with this knowledge, I was asked that your bank account here, this account, what balance does it have? And I think a few people said debit, and somebody said there's no balance. Right? So we're on that point. So I think now you are comfortable to respond to the question. So, Prof. Janet, can you now attempt to also give us your viewpoint as to what balance this account?
He says a debit balance.
It's a debit balance. So I think the debits have it. The reason is that the debit side is more than the credit. So this account has a debit. If you don't use that technique, the other technique you can use, the location of the balance carried down can also tell you what balance it is. But that one is difficult. So I tell students to use the balance brought down. If the balance brought down is debit, the account has debit. If the brought down comes to the credit side, then the account has credit. But always be guided. Simple. If the debit side is more than the credit side, then the account has debit balance. So always use that. But sometimes maybe the card down brought down. So I think now we appreciate how to balance. So there is one here already balanced. So this is Kwesi account, right? So I think we'll get the total again on both sides. Look at the difference. So here I think the difference was on this side. That's why you're seeing 650 balance carried down. That is. So using the knowledge, we can say that this account has a credit balance, right? Because the brought down is on the credit side. But if you use the analysis of the credit side was more than the debit side, I think because that was the reason why the carry down the credit side was weaker. So we have to put the carry down to make it weak. Now I think I have to be there for you to balance, but balance. Please, let's all get to work and balance this account. Lemon Limited. Let's balance it. So one, I want to know the balance carried down you get. And, you can tell me the balance. Does it have a debit balance or a credit? I think we cannot do that, right? Or we should do it together.
So you are trying our hands on it and see. So
Okay.
I'm trying my hands on it and see.
So Abeko is trying, and I want to believe the rest of you are trying. So try and let's see what you get. Okay. So Joris, go ahead.
Debit, it's a debit balance.
A debit balance of how much?
But
How much is the balance?
12,000.
12,000. That's the balance you have, right?
Yes, please.
A debit balance. Okay. Fidel, let's hear from Fidel.
So please, it is a debit balance,
Okay.
and the balance I had from the debit side was 12,000. So you balance carry down the credit side. That would be 9,000.
Okay.
So when you add the 9,000 to the this one, you get 12,000.
Okay.
Then you balance brought down the debit side.
Okay. Thank you. Let me hear from Nicole finally.
So it's a debit balance, yes. But my balance brought down is 9,000.
It's 9,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, any other, please. The rest of you, Stacy, for some reason, I don't know, I dreamt you were talking about today. So please, let my dream come to pass. Bob Stacy. Ewan now, could you share? At least that gives me indication that you are doing it. Yes, I will do.
Simply, I got it as a debit balance, and then the balance carry down to make the both sides equal is the 9,000.
Oh, okay. So yes, um, all the answers pointing to the account being a debit balance account balance. True, right? Uh, but I think we had 12, which is good. So always the balance is the difference, right? So if the difference was 9,000, which is the balance right down, then if you are asked what is the balance on this account, then you should give that difference 9,000. The 12,000 becomes the total on both sides after the balance. So let's do it together using the steps. So first step is calculate the total on both sides. So you add here, you add here. If we do the adding, those with calculator, let me call Prof. If we add the figures on the debit side, what are we getting? Prof. Stacy is asleep. Prof. Stacy, I see you are so you are happy. So, okay, Ewenam, please assist this. When you add the debit side, what do you get? Prof. Joshua, what total do you get for the debit?
The debit side, I had 12,000.
12,000. Thank you. We put it somewhere. 12,000. Then the credit side, I think those two purposes, that the network, the way they are. So this side, when we add, that will be 3,000, right? So the debit side is 12,000. So even from here, you can tell the balance on the account that the debit side is more than the credit side. So this will have a debit balance. But then we need to find the difference between them, which will be 9,000. So this 9,000 is what you put at the lesser side. Obviously, that's the credit side, and call it balance C. So we come to this account. We are going to put the 9,000 here and call it balance C. Balance. Using the closing date. If you look through the account, you see that this is June, right? 18th 6, 25th 6. That's so June. So 30 days are September, April, June. So June will end on 30th, right? So the date will be 30th June 2000. Now, when you put in the carry down, it's always important for you to get the total on both sides because now the account has balance. So that will be the 12,000 here and 12,000 here. So the total is very important and you need to underline, right? Why? So I'm using what word, but I don't underline. So I don't have that here. But you have to use your pen to underline. show the total on both sides. And it should always be on the same line. Very, very important. Then after that, this carry down should come down to the opposite side. So it will come to this side. Put the 9,000. And this time we'll call it what? Balance what down or balance sheet. Using the date for the next period. So if we are ending or closing on 30th June, the next date we are going to resume will be what? 1st July 2002. Is that not the case? Yes. This is how you balance that. And we have seen that this account is having a debit balance. How much? 9,000. So the 9,000 is the debit balance. So I think we are comfortable with. Now, when you're able to do this balancing, then you can now go ahead and extract your trial balance. So how do we extract the trial balance? We need to know what a trial balance is. A trial balance is just a list of all your account balance. So it's a list of the debit balances and the credit balance. But we don't put the two together. We separate the debit balance from the credit balance, right? Gabriel, you can ask.
So, did you say we should explain trial balance or how you get a balance?
No, I think we are done with the balance. So I'm looking at preparing the trial balance, right? So let's look at that one. Then I think our time. So
The trial balance.
A trial balance is a summary or a list. It's a summary or a list of all the account balances in your book. It is prepared after all accounts have been balanced. So after you have gone through the process we have gone through to determine whether it is a debit balance or a credit balance, you now extract or you draw your trial balance. Now, the instructions are that all the accounts with the debit balances, you put them under a debit column. And all the accounts that are having credit balances, you put them under what? The credit column. And this is how you prepare. So the format follows here. The title is trial balance as at. And then you put the date. The date will be given to you. It's normally at the end of the first 30th. It's made up of 3 columns. The first column will take the name of the account. And the second one will take the debit column. And the third one, the credit column. It means that when you balance all your T accounts, all the accounts that you are getting debit balances, you come and put the values here. So when you write the name of the account, example could be, then you put the amount and the debit. If it's a vehicle, you write vehicle, then you put the amount. If it's creditors, you put creditors and the balance you have on that account, you put it at the right column. At the end of the day, you sum all the debits and sum all the credits, and that's where majority of students will begin to try. Your debits should be equal to your credits. That's the total. If it's not equal, it means you have made a mistake. Now, what you see in here is a summary of the elements of account, telling you what each of these account balances they have. And as I've hinted sometimes, that assets and expenses, they behave in the same way. They have debit balances. But capital, liabilities, and revenue have credit. So if you take an account like vehicle is an asset. So definitely vehicle will have a debit balance. So that's why you are seeing asset. In a real life example, what is going to happen is they'll give you the transaction, ask you to prepare the T account, balance it off, and then extract the trial balance. Okay. But today, for me to know that I've achieved my purpose or the objective of this lesson, which was to do the balancing and extracting the trial balance, I'm going to give you some few accounts. You are going to balance them up and then you extract the trial balance. But I'll show you finally how the trial balance looks like. So look at this question I solved for Chelsea Limit. So you see, I have this cash account. So I've done my balance and have my carry down and my brought down. So if my brought down is on the debit, it means that this cash account has a debit balance. So if I'm extracting a trial balance, which I want it to be paid, then so you see, in my trial balance, look at it. The first item, cash, see that it has been put under the debit. So if I go to my second account, let me go to the second account before I'll come back to the question. The second account was capital, right? Capital, when I did the balancing, look at where the brought down is. It means it is having a credit balance. So if you put capital in your trial balance, so you see capital, then it will go under where? The credit side, because the account has a credit balance. Let's look at the last two here. Rent. As you see this rent, the brought down is on the debit, right? So if I put rent in the trial balance, the balance should be at the debit, under the debit. So at the end of the day, you sum all the debits. Like my case, I have 273. You sum all the credits. So Nicole, let me hear your question then.
Please, I think it's okay now. But can you move to the previous page?
This is my solution. So ordinarily, I would give you the account which have not been balanced. Then you will balance it and then extract your trial balance, right?
Pardon me.
So I'm saying that the example I'll give you, right? You are going to balance off the account. And this time when I say balance of account, you know what to do. You do to get your down, right? And then you can go ahead to extract your trial balance. Let me hear from Abu, then I'll take
Okay.
next step. Yeah.
I wanted to ask that. So, like, if you have an account like the vehicle account, where when you're doing the trial balance, will you write vehicle account or you write assets account?
So use the name on the account. So if it's vehicle, right?
Okay.
Prof. Christabel.
Say, please, I'm struggling to hear you, but then from my understanding, is it that when what's the name, you summarize the account into a debit balance or a credit balance, then you like input it in the trial balance? Or like, I didn't understand it because your line was breaking.
Oh, sorry. This time I think maybe your end. But can you hear me now?
A little.
Okay, other professors, can you hear me clearly? So that if not,
So please, it's okay.
so Christopher, I think maybe your end. Try and shift your, just do about 10, the network. But can you hear me now? Is it better now, Christopher?
Yes.
So I'm saying that after you have done your balancing, which is do the total, subtract, get the difference, put it there, call it balance card down, bring it down as balance brought down, you now extract a trial balance. What does it mean? The trial balance is just you now picking the balances you have gotten from your balance and putting it under debits column and credit column. So what you put under debit column are all the accounts that you had debit balances. Then what you put under the credit column will be all accounts that you had what credit balances.
Okay.
So for the trial balance, you just put the heading trial balance assets. Then you put the date there. If the question gave the date 31st December 2005, you put it there. Then you draw your 3 columns. Okay. The first column will pick the name of the account. Then the second column will pick the debit column, and the third column will pick the credit column. So that these are the 3 columns you draw. So if you pick your first account, let's say your first account is Kofi account, you write the name Kofi, and then you check when you balance Kofi's account, did you get a debit balance? If you got a debit balance, you put it under debit. If you got a credit balance, you put it under what? Credit. Then you do same for all the other accounts you have prepared.
Okay.
Okay, Nicole, let me hear your second question.
So please, what if there's a situation where in the T account, both the debit side and then the credit side is balanced?
Okay. So Nicole is
you still need to do this down.
So where the total on both the credits and debits are the same, it means this account has no balance, right? So now all that you do is to put in the total. There will be no carry down, brought down. Okay, I want to see if I can get one of them here to show you. Yes. Okay, let me draw one. So let's say that this is, for example, a Kofi account, right? And then we sold goods to Kofi 1,000. If we sell goods to Kofi, we debit him, right? So sales 1,000 like this. And then maybe the next date, Kofi paid cash. So if Kofi pays cash, we'll credit Kofi, then we'll debit cash. So Kofi paid the cash 1,000. If you are balancing this account, the first step is get the total on both sides. So you get 1,000, you get 1,000. Find the difference. The difference is 0. So if the difference is 0, the account has no balance. So you don't put in any carry down, brought down. You just underline it. And then here we are doing that because it's just one line item. Let me put a situation where, for example, say, Kofi paid a cash of 800. So there was a discount. So 800 like this. Then there was a discount of 200. Again, if we go through the stages of balance, we'll add here, which is 1,000. We'll add here, we'll get 1,000. So again, there will be no difference. In such a circumstance, just draw your total line like this on the same line and put in the total. So here will be 1,000. There will be 1,000. There will be no carry down button. You don't need to write carry down and put 0 there. No. You don't put it in the account. So in the trial balance, such an account will not appear there. So before that is the answer. If there's any other question at this point, I can only take questions. So what I'm going to do as an assignment for you is I'll give you like say 5 or 10 accounts which has not been balanced. So you would balance it, use the process to balance it, get your carry down board down, and then after that you draw your trial balance and put in the debit balance and credit balance and see if your total. I don't want to be wicked. If I want to be wicked, I would have given you business transactions. Then you would apply the double entry principle to do the debits and credits. before you now balance it, before you start it. But I would want to solve one big question that before I do. Or if my professor say, "Oh, sir, we want you to be wicked. Give us the transaction. We'll prepare the account." Then I'll also listen. So which is which? Professor say, if you don't talk, I'll be wicked. Oh,
So please, we're okay with the first one.
okay. So I'll give you some few accounts. You balance them off, and then you can extract the travel. If you can even do the balancing and you struggle with the travel, don't worry. As we solve more illustrations, even that more broadly, we can solve questions. So when we pick the question, the transaction, we'll prepare the T account, we'll balance them, then we'll prepare the. So thank you very much for this. If there are no questions, in our time is one, I would wrap up for the day. But major highlights of this lesson are that you need to balance up your T account to be able to extract a travel. If you are doing the balancing, you get a total for both sides. You subtract the difference, then becomes the balance carried right? And again, if the debit side is more than the credit side, then that account has a debit balance. If it is the opposite, where the credit side is more than the debit side, then the account has a debit balance. Okay. You can also use the balance brought down to know whether it has a debit or credit. So any account that has a brought down at the debit is a debit balance. Anyone that has it on the credit side. So this rent account has a debit, salaries has a debit, then you can find the credit. Advertising here is having debit, render info is having debit. Sales. So you see that sales, for sales, the brought down is on the credit side. So sales will have the credit. Yes, for info.
So please, I wanted to know, after this balancing, what else are we going to be learning?
Well, so when you are done balancing of your account and you start your trial balance, if you look at the process in accounting, the next thing is to prepare what we call final account. And the final account is made up of your income statement and your balance sheet. Your income statement is where you determine whether you are making profit or loss as a business. And your balance sheet will show your assets, liabilities, and capital. But for the purposes of our lessons on Omega, we had to stop the day books to come and do this one to more or less like revise and get ourselves hooked. But it follows the same trend. After your day books, you now go to your final account, that's the trading account or the income statement. Okay, thank you very much, professors. I'll share the recording for your perusal. Please do well to watch it, especially for those of us who are having network challenges. My doors are always open, but so far no professor or no professor, none of you have reached out to say, I don't understand. Or even as a class, because sometimes the weekends I'm expecting can you do something that you do less. Anyway, let's say bye bye. Then we'll continue. Thursday. So do have a great day. But I'll put the assignment on the page very soon. Okay. I'm going to put a PDF format. Yeah. So you open it, then you have to recopy it into your note, your exercise book, balance it, and do the try balance. Okay, so professors, do have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye, sir.